that fuck you button. Well. Good evening, everybody. Can you guys all hear me okay? Just go ahead and stick up that middle finger. You can say happy birthday with the middle finger. Middle fingers are allowed tonight because Robert's been giving it to me all day long. Robert, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing okay. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. We are 5 years younger today, so we feel good. Not really. I slept all day, but that's that's about the way it works, right?
Yep. Now, did you get my serenading voice recording wishing you happy birthday?
I did, and I wish I could unhear it, but unfortunately, it is now stuck on my brain. But I'm going to play it for Jen tomorrow on her birthday, so we'll just make sure she has to endure it too. Want to say hello to everybody that's joining us. I know it's probably been a busy day for many of you. Many of you following the Idaho 4 case, boy, it's just rampant all over the place. You got people talking about these newest drops of documents, and you got everybody on one side of things cheering as if this just won the case for the prosecution, making up narratives and falsehoods all based upon stuff they just literally don't understand. And Robert and I are here today to try to make some understanding of some of the craziness, but you never know, right, Robert? We may just make it a little bit worse.
Oh yeah. Like before I went and picked up my friend, I got this notification on my phone, and it was from Court TV, and it was for Vinnie Politan investigates the DNA found underneath Maddie's fingernails.
Oh, I'm telling you, that is the big one, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, we spoke about that a little bit last night, and I'm sure we'll speak about it a little bit this evening. And I want to say a quick thank you to everybody in the chat that's throwing that happy birthday out my way. It's truly appreciated. I love it when I'm able to get younger. It makes the biggest difference within me. I feel rejuvenated now that I'm all of 25 years old again. When Robert, when you subtract 5 from 30, you go back to 25, right?
Yeah.
Oh, if I could just only be even somewhere remotely in that neck of the woods for age. But I do want to say thank you. And I definitely wanted to say thank you to everybody that's joining, both Robert and I. I know there's a lot going on in the true crime community, a lot of people out there sharing their thoughts and their opinions. And we are definitely blessed to have each and every single one of you join us with our moderators, James Moen. Thank you very much, my friend. I know that you were a little worried that you missed last night, but we're definitely appreciative of you being here and every single night that you are. We got a little bit of Twizzle stick in the house too. Robert, how do you feel about that one? It's good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, Twizzle Stick's okay as long as you put him on a leash with a muzzle.
Yeah, well, I love Twizzle Stick, and I appreciate you for sending me that message today that I haven't responded to. Crystal Amber, one of my favorite individuals for a long time now, and Crystal, I send a lot of love out to not only yourself but to your mother as well. Sky Blue is in the house. She's a member of both of our channels, Robert. It's great to see her. Mark and Betty. She's here, and I Summer Jade. We've got some amazing people. Justice for MKXE. Good to see you as well. And I know some of your moderators are here in the house tonight as well, aren't they, Robert?
Mark and Betty and Twizzle Stick are moderating on my side, and Mark and Betty said, Albert and Robert, I'd love to go for a beer with you too.
Well, I would definitely like to go out and have a drink with you. You're more than welcome to have a beer. I have officially, ladies and gentlemen, it has now been approximately 6 or 7 months since the last time I had a drink, whether it be a beer or a glass of sangria, which I truly enjoy, but I'm never allowed to actually have alcohol again because of my diagnosis and some of the things going on in my health. But it's actually a great thing because I found cranberry juice and some many other great things that I'm enjoying drinking now outside of the alcohol. So it's been a very nice change for me, Robert.
Yeah. My wife discovered today grapefruit soda, and yeah, I don't like grapefruits, but she goes, honey, you want to try to drink my soda? I'm like, well, what is it? She goes, grapefruit soda. I'm like, no, thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would drink grapefruit soda. They have a drink at Starbucks. It's kind of like a fizzy water type deal. I don't really know what it is, but I drink a little bit of that here or there. But ladies and gentlemen, I've really deemed myself kind of on a track of being as healthy as I possibly can. I'm cutting out a lot of the junk food. I've cut alcohol out. Pretty proud now that I'm going on year 4 without a cigarette. I quit smoking cigarettes cold turkey. Now I'm into a healthier diet with proteins and vegetables that I wasn't used to doing, and we're moving forward. So that's always a good thing. And we'll see how many more years this adds on, because Jen says that I have to be around for a long time. Otherwise, she's going to come dig me back out of the ground and make me be around anyway. So I might as well try to do it on my own terms, right?
Yeah, I mean, we can't have you being Stalin, who basically is on a permanent display for like the last 100 years. I don't know how they make him to where he still looks human.
Well, I'm getting to the point. I'm not so sure I look human either. That's why I do this virtual background where I can actually fade in, fade out of the background, and then I get behind this logo. So I think that's one of the greatest inventions. When they created YouTube, they created the ability to duck and hide behind a logo. And I'm just wondering if I can find a good enough looking man to hide behind as a logo that maybe my wife will just call me a hottie one day again.
Hey, how about Antonio Banderas?
She just doesn't like his voice. So maybe if I could add my voice to his body, I might have a chance, Robert. I might just have a chance. But now we wanted to get back into, and there's one of my favorite mods, Doodlebug, has joined us in the house. Doodlebug, I am definitely working on an intro and an extra. I want everybody within the chat to remember I introduced Doodlebug the other night when she was able to jump up on panel with us, kind of giving a description of her channel where she dedicates herself to the missing. She is 100% driven to help not only those be found, but also their families get through the hardships of having a missing individual, a missing loved one within their lives. So I definitely would like it if everybody can remember to stop by over at Doodlebug's channel, because she does a great job pretty much daily going live, representing these missing cases, describing what's going on. And I know for sure I jump over there every day and show as much love as I can. And I would appreciate it if all of you could as well. So it's Catherine S. is in the house tonight. She's amazing as well. Been a big supporter of mine. Sharon, thank you for the happy birthdays. We got to stop saying the happy birthdays for me. We got to start focusing in, because the wife gets older tomorrow, everybody. Remember that. Hers is a little more special. We got to be a little more celebrative of her tomorrow, because she's actually getting older, where I'm actually getting younger. So we've got to give her the love. Lori, yeah. It's great to see you as well. Now, Robert, last night we were actually breaking into a little bit of the Dylan Mortensen paperwork that had released in the discussion in regards to that. We're going to return to that again this evening, but I do want to give a heads up to those within the chat, and of course, anybody that will be listening either on Robert's podcast, on replay, or on mine. We are not here to put any negativity upon any of the survivors, any of the families, any of that. We will discuss this with our opinions and our own thoughts based upon the things that we read and also the things that we think. However, we're not accusing anybody of any crimes because at this time, as you know, Robert and I, we stand straight down the middle. We look for justice, and we look for the actual justice system and the court system to uphold what our constitutional rights are and battle through the process on a fair and measured way. And that's kind of where I was going to go to start the show a little bit, Robert, was what we've been seeing today in regards to some of this information and even the things that we tossed around last night in regards to the fingernail clippings and the DNA found underneath those. And I guess I'm just a bit confused, Robert, and maybe you can help me figure this out. Why does everybody think that this is showcasing that Bryan Kohberger's DNA was found underneath those nail clippings when it clearly states the prosecution, for one, was stating in the grand jury that it was exculpatory, and then two, the defense has had their own expert fully exclude Bryan Kohberger as any potential matches to that DNA. Yet we see so many people out there today waving their arms up in the air like they just don't care, as if this just sealed the deal in this case, and Bryan Kohberger's guilty just based upon the fingernails. What's your thoughts about that?
Well, my thoughts is they're so gung-ho to find this man guilty that they are willing to go to any and every lengths to prove that he's guilty. Yeah, like we discussed last night, it was the DNA underneath Maddie's fingernails was a combination of hers plus, I believe, what was 3 other unknown male DNAs, and Bryan's DNA was not found underneath her fingernails. But you have, like the mainstream media that are so gung-ho on this man's guilt that they're willing to basically grasp at straws by saying that his DNA was found underneath the fingernails when it wasn't.
And what truly scares me about this, Robert, is these documents are out there for all of us to read. Obviously, yes, every single one of us has a different educational background. Many of us even have different literacies of the things that we do read. And I'll be one of the first to admit, I don't understand every single thing that I read. But those things that I don't understand, I go try to find the answers to. I go try to find, what am I missing here? What am I not understanding to the fullest? How can I better understand this? So I read it, I research it, I listen to other people that are doing their best to go through it as well. But it really frustrates me. It really frustrates me sitting back and listening to people that, have worked within law enforcement, and they don't take the time to decipher what they're reading within these documents, or 2, somebody that's even been on the other side of the spectrum like myself, to where we've been incarcerated, we've been through the system, we've had the issues, and they themselves will overlook what these documents actually mean. And then they're acting as if this person's guilty and they're the saint of the world, but Bryan Kohberger's guilty, all because they say so. That just doesn't make me feel good about this.
No. And Demon Dog asked a question: did Maddie shower when she got home? I do not know if she showered when she got home.
Yeah, and I don't think that's something that we're probably ever going to find out. I mean, what we literally have to focus upon is the fact they trimmed her fingernails. They went through the testing. They didn't find anything. Now, where some of the issues are lying here, and I did release a video, Robert, on this evening, and it is misinformation and misleading, and it happened not only today within the community out and about, But we also have to look what happened with the grand jury indictment, because it sure sounds as though the way that it was presented to the grand jury was not as exculpatory evidence like what the prosecution states that they were trying to do it as, but they actually did it in a manner that was very confusing, misleading. And at the end of the day, I believe that actually helped Bryan Kohberger get indicted on this, because even that grand jury felt as though there was a potential match underneath Maddie's fingernails, when through all the testing, it actually comes back that he's fully excluded from that.
It's just, like I said, yeah. Do we know if Bill Thompson let the grand jury know that his DNA wasn't found underneath the fingernails, or did Bill Thompson tell the grand jury there's a potential that his DNA was found underneath the fingernails, and that's why they went forward with the indictment?
Well, and that's the unfortunate thing in the research that I'm doing, and I've listened to many other people that I find to be very creditable in the things that they're saying, because they've researched it, they've broken it down, they better tried to teach themselves before they even try to speak upon it. So I got to give them some credit into that, because listening to them actually made more sense to me as I tried to put these pieces together. And it comes down to one simple thing. The experts for the prosecution laid out the probability numbers that we went over last night that were below a certain line to even be able to implicate anybody, but they did not exclude Bryan Kohberger, and they also didn't exclude the others that were found underneath those nail clippings as well, even though they didn't meet even the lowest of criteria to be deemed as somebody's like readable DNA underneath that. So none of those could have came back and been pinpointed onto any perpetrator, but they did not state that the levels actually excluded Bryan Kohberger. His own defense team had to go out and get testing done through experts that legitimately excluded Bryan Kohberger. Now, of course, we're looking at a document, Robert, that all of these, people that are speaking upon guilt are jumping up and down about. That is literally a document to exclude this from being spoken upon within the courtroom, but they're acting as if this is the most damning evidence in the world, and it most likely is not even going to be brought up in the courtroom.
No, and yeah, the picture of that car that we were debating about last night.
Mm-hmm.
I took a screenshot of it and send it to a friend of mine I've known for years and years and years. I consider him like a brother. His name is Corey. I took a screenshot of it and sent it to him because he knows a lot about cars. And yeah, and he, less than 5 minutes, he texts me back. He goes, what are they trying to say this car is? I'm like, a 2015 Hyundai Elantra. And he goes, no way. I'm like, okay, well, what is it then? And I mean, he even like zoomed in on it to see what it is. He said, bro, that's at least either a 2012 or 2014 Hyundai Sonata.
Yeah, I've had quite a few people get back in touch with me too, because I have some very good friends that work in the auto field, and they directly work with a lot of vehicles, and one of them actually has helped law enforcement through the dealership and the mechanics that he works with work as a profiler and identifier of vehicles, and he actually sent me back the exact same thing. He said that's actually a Sonata, and it most likely even has a sunroof on it. And I said, well,
yeah,
I just don't know enough about cars to make the argument. But one thing I do know I'm watching all these people again speaking upon how this is damning evidence against Bryan Kohberger. These very photos are proving the case that Bryan Kohberger was driving his 2015 Hyundai Elantra through the crime scene area at those times on that very camera. And I just want to remind people, nobody could make any identification, including the FBI, who is known to be the ones that identified the vehicle off of the 1125 Ridge Road, camera.
Yeah.
These, they could make no identification of the make, model, year, anything of this vehicle. And that's why, again, Ann Taylor is looking to have this excluded from the trial, because there's no weight, no bearing to it. It does not lead to any type of identification of Bryan Kohberger's car. So I don't think people should be jumping up and down and just, partying to high heaven right now, all because they feel as though these are damning pieces of evidence against Bryan Kohberger, because these pieces of evidence most likely aren't even making it to trial, ladies and gentlemen. They're not even going to be there. We're not going to hear them spoken of. We're not going to have the experts arguing about it. You and I and everybody that's been able to see the docs come out, that's probably going to be the most that we're going to see of this. And just Catherine S. No, Swamp Rose is not with us this evening. I haven't spoken to her probably in a day or two. I'm not sure if she's taken a little bit of time off or she's got some projects she's working on. We definitely send her a bunch of love, and Christy Nevada as well. And hopefully we get all back together here soon and get back up on panel. But we're missing a few people tonight, but we do have to understand people are out there, ladies and gentlemen. They are partying it up for my birthday for me. So they're out on the dance floor shaking the booty. They're having a drink or two with their loved ones. They're tipping their glasses to me as I get younger and younger. By the end of the show, I'll be 10 years younger. So keep up the talk. And each time I might end up below the age of 18. You may be talking to a minor by the end of the night, and all of you will be in trouble.
Yeah. I want to say hi. Love Tina just popped in on my side. I want to say hi to Love Tina, and she says hi to you as well, brother.
Gotta love some Love Tina. She's amazing, and I know she's a big follower of this case and a big supporter of both of us, as most everybody in the chat tonight is. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I had to time one individual out because I'm just not a fan of the negativity. And we all have our feelings of who could be involved in this case. We all have the thoughts that maybe some of these people are just nutty and there's a lot going on here, but we don't have to do it in a rude, negative way. And I apologize if anybody saw that, but I tried to remove it as quick as I could. I want this to be a safe haven for everybody. You're more than welcome to speak your minds, share your thoughts, debate on things. Let's just do it in a respectful way. I don't care whether you feel someone's guilty, not guilty, right down the middle. You look at it sideways, you look at it from below. As long as we do it respectfully, we'll have a great community and we can have one of the best, talks you can imagine, debates. And that's what it's all about. So.
Yes. So are we going to get into the discussion of the eyebrows drawn on corkboard?
I'm actually
that's just some weird. That's some weird stuff, brother. Some weird stuff. I would hate to be her boyfriend walking into her room and seeing eyes with bushy eyebrows drawn all over corkboard.
Yeah, I mean, I myself am not a big fan of it too. I'm actually getting into the computer now so that I can get that up for us, and we'll discuss that a little bit more. I'm going to put myself on mute for 1 second, Robert. If you want to actually kind of discuss some of the funny things you find about it while I get this document, take it away, my friend.
I mean, who in the world draws just eyes and bushy eyebrows and puts them on corkboard? And it gives the whole new meaning of inside looking.
That is very true.
Amy Conway, how are you doing this evening?
Good evening, Amy. It's great to see you and have you in with us. I'm hiding behind my emblem here for a minute, ladies and gentlemen, so not all of you can laugh at me while I try to pull up this document because blind men faces pressed against a computer screen is always the way to do this. All right, Robert, are we able? Where did we last night make it to, Robert?
Yeah, I think it was right there in motion in Lamine.
We talked about her actually having drawn them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see if I can get myself back over here appropriately. And anybody and everybody, I know I'm hiding behind the emblem, but I promise I haven't ran away yet. So obviously, everybody knows on November 17th. So so far, last night we spoke on the date of the crime being found, November 13th. She was actually interviewed by law enforcement to where they took a look into her bedroom after discussing things with her. And of course, lo and behold, as they walk into the room, and look, everybody, I'm an artistic individual myself. I love to draw. I love to do things, and I do hang artwork. I do different things. And I can understand if this young lady was an artist of drawing facial feature and eyes and things of that nature, that's not unusual. People do this. So I don't find that unusual. What I do find unusual is that law enforcement basing the very features within their PCA as bushy eyebrows, and then they walk into this very young lady's room, and of course, all the way around the room, what are they finding, Robert?
A lot of weird stuff.
Well, I guess that's one way to put it. That's one way to put it. So throughout the interview, DM expressed. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I have a comment on my side by Tell Us What. Seems a little juvenile, yet at the same time a little sinister. If she sees them in her dreams, that's a creep factor.
Well, it is. And I got to say, Catherine S., you took 3. You got more to go, young lady. If you're going to fill it in for Jen and I with the shots of Fireball, and you got to add Robert to that mix because I know Robert likes his Fireball too. So we're glad that you got started. We support you in the beginning, and now we push you to add to the mix. But ladies and gentlemen, the first thing that I kind of want to get out there on my feelings about this, and I'm frustrated that law enforcement would even have allowed this young lady, one, to give interviews to where they were trying to utilize any type of what she's saying as creditable information to arrest somebody in a quadruple homicide. But 2, I mean, you're pushing this young lady who expresses within the interviews, and it seems as though, Robert, there was 4 separate interviews. So, I mean, we're not going to go through legitimately everything, but this young lady, one, tells them, hey, look, I was tired. I don't know if I was asleep. I don't know if I was awake. I don't know what the heck was going on. I was either dreaming or I was fantasizing. But, you know, she makes it pretty clear that she doesn't even want to be taken as a creditable witness. Otherwise, she wouldn't have said those things. Now, I get it. As we go through everything that she said during the interviews, I mean, to me, this just seems fishy. Like, it seems very, very fishy. And then she also even let law enforcement know, Robert, that she has lucid dreams of being kidnapped, chased, you know, watching Criminal Minds and falling asleep to true crime podcasts. A lot of these dreams began back in high school. Look, I get it. People have these dreams. I 100% understand that. We all have had nightmares in our life. But this doesn't explain the narrative that people pushed very early on of frozen shock phase. Nothing about this goes to frozen shock phase.
No, especially, brother. this whole frozen shock phase, which I think is bogus, because if she was in actual frozen shock phase, she wouldn't have wandered her way downstairs and into Bethany's room. Yeah, because we've all heard, out of the probable crap affidavit. She opened her door 3 times that night. Well, now we're finding out that could be a lie. I mean, she could have opened her door once and then saw the perpetrator, and she said she was in frozen shock phase. Well, I don't believe that, because if you were in frozen shock phase, you wouldn't have left your room and went downstairs to the first floor to Bethany's room.
Well, and I have to say to the individuals out there, and I'm going to actually stop sharing the document for a minute just so that we have a little better connection, Robert, to make sure you're not cutting it out. But, at the end of the day, the narrative that was pushed, ladies and gentlemen, was frozen shock phase. And many out there tried to push all of us that we couldn't question this situation, because what we would be doing was actually be, interrogating a victim all over again and bringing even worse, memories and all of this onto her. But my question is, in frozen shock phase that all these people claimed, to where she locked herself back in the room and they didn't know if she went back to sleep, hid in her closet, did all this, but just minutes later, she picked up her phone after hearing all of the stuff she heard out there, the crying, the whimpering, the moaning, the whatever else. She heard hell on wheels. She heard the fight for people's lives out there. There's no doubt in my mind that she did. She did not pick up the phone, Robert, to call 911. She picked up the phone and called downstairs to Bethany to see if she could come down there and sleep. My question is, if you've heard everybody whimpering and moaning, and then potentially seeing the very person causing that chaos and that pain within your home walk past you and out the back door, why did you call downstairs to Bethany? Why didn't you call Xana? Why didn't you call Kaylee? You heard Kaylee go up and down the stairs with her dog, they say, and you heard someone like Xana sounding as though she was crying and whimpering, yet you called downstairs to Bethany to see if you could go to that part of the house to sleep, which just so happens to be the only floor that was not a part of this crime scene.
That is very, very fishy, is very odd. I mean, she stated she heard the sounds of Kaylee running down the stairs and then running back up the stairs, and then she said she thought she heard the sound of Kaylee going, "There's someone here." When even Payne stated that it was more than likely Xana she heard. And do we even really know if Xana was on TikTok that night or if there was a DoorDash order? I'd like to know that, because I heard something in the very beginning that just because there's a TikTok activity is not proof of life. Just because there's a DoorDash order is not proof of life. And then at the same time, you had all that activity going on around the house between 2:54 and 3:16 in the morning. And Kaylee's phone goes offline at 2:56, not after 4 a.m. It goes offline before 3 a.m.
Yeah, there's a lot of mystery to this, and Melissa's right. So if we begin with the Dylan situation of coming face to face with somebody walking through the home, in my thought process, and I tend to agree with Melissa on this, one of the reasons why she wouldn't take the noises that she heard, the whimpering or the crying within the let's just say the second floor, not even what she possibly heard on the third floor above her, But what she heard on the second floor itself was someone crying and whimpering. It most likely, to me, the best way to explain that away is, well, I recognized the person walking through my living room, so I didn't feel threatened by it. If that came out, and that's what was actually said to me in an explanation of why Dylan never picked up the phone. Like, she didn't call anybody. Okay. She had to take away that phone call to Bethany. You got to take that off the table for that to make any sense, because there would have been no reason, if she knew somebody didn't feel any sort of threat. You don't need to go downstairs to go to sleep. You just lay down on your bed and go to sleep, unless there's more of an explanation than that to it, which, I don't have it, because I'm not one that goes to other people's rooms to go to sleep. I hate being around people when I sleep. Even my wife will tell you, I'm pretty damn good at sleeping by myself. I don't need to call anybody when I'm scared to go sleep in their bunk. And maybe I got that from the penitentiary. You just don't go sleep in somebody else's bunk.
Oh no. Well, I got to thinking when you were saying that. Well, someone in the chat said, "Well, what if Dylan knew the person, or this person, whoever did it, clearly looked at Dylan? We don't know if there was just eye contact and there's a person walked by. We don't know if this person told her go downstairs. We don't know exactly what happened in the house that night, but we're finding out thanks to these new documents, because what we've been told in the beginning, we're finding out now is a lie."
Right. And I do, I want to make it very, very clear, Robert. I am one of those types of people, unfortunately, that probably doesn't dial 911. I'm not looking to discuss anything with law enforcement at any point in time, and I'm not looking to dial the phone out for help. And I'm not sure how I would react in a situation like this, but I can tell you right now, if I was asked by law enforcement, what was the reasoning for the 8-hour gap, and I would have to look at him and say, well, I don't trust you to call you. I mean, I just have to be real about it. I didn't know what was happening. It wasn't my business. And because of that, I'm not going to be able to call you. I mean, it just is what it is, but in this scenario, that's not what we're being led to believe. That's not what's being said. They're trying to make excuses, and they're building a narrative as to frozen shock phase and all of this. And that's getting slammed against the wall now.
Yeah.
It's getting slammed against the wall. And I just don't understand, as these narratives begin to get unpeeled, why are people still clinging to these narratives, trying to prove those who are learning that these narratives are 100% incorrect? Why are you still trying to prove us wrong when it's clear as day statements through law enforcement themselves and documented very clearly in motions within the court?
Yeah. And like I stated last night, I'm actually kind of proud of Judge Hippler for basically, making all these sealed documents unsealed, or at least redacted. Because, I mean, in the beginning, when this case was in Judge's court, all these sealing and redactions was total utter crazy. And it was like, I've never seen anything like that in a case like this before. But now Judge Hippler, I guess he wants transparency, and I know we've all prayed for transparency in this case when it comes to certain things. Now we're getting it,
and I think we damn well should have had this from the beginning, because if we had had this from the beginning, there wouldn't be so much of this narrative building and arguments over a narrative that's just ridiculous to begin with. Ladies and gentlemen, we knew Those of us with common sense, those of us that were willing to open our eyes and our minds knew, one, there was no way that Dylan Mortensen didn't hear or know something was happening in that home. We knew they were not all asleep. I mean, it's point blank obvious. They were not all asleep. Now, those of us who at the very initial look, when we were going through the initial press conferences with the Moscow Police Department, I knew they were bogus and BSing us from the minute they opened their mouth and started speaking into that mic. I could just tell because I'm so used to them being in an interrogation room trying to get me to tell on myself or give up information that I learned their little ways of getting a narrative out of me. So when I see them step up to the plate and they're at the microphone and they're not giving up any information, yet the reporters and the people asking them questions, just like what interrogators would do, now it's the reporters asking these questions and they're trapping law enforcement into having to answer some of these things. The minute we heard they were not actually asleep, they were awake. Then we heard there was a witness. Then we heard, I mean, this stuff started coming out. It was like, why did everybody push this narrative that those that didn't believe what they were saying were just absolutely wrong? And we were just beating down on these young ladies that were survivors and creating such havoc. And at the end of the day, it's like, well, we had questions for a reason. And now the questions are all coming to light because they were real and true questions that deserved an honest and transparent answer. And we're finally getting them.
Yeah. And yeah, I kind of actually wish instead of Judge, we would have had Judge Hippler to begin with. Yeah, because if we would have had Judge Hippler to begin with, I mean, who knows? Maybe all these documents that were sealed under Judge's court would have never been sealed. Maybe redacted, but never been sealed.
Well, I mean, we can look at it in that sense, but then we could also look at the fact that this is a very prosecution-friendly judge. Everything so far, Robert, everything so far has been denied for the defense. They went into a suppression hearings, and I'm gonna just tell everybody, no, not every time when you go into suppression hearings does evidence get suppressed, but it's rare that all the evidence makes it through and not one motion gets approved. That's crazy to me. Okay, there hasn't been a ruling as of yet that has favored the defense and Bryan Kohberger. Just because you unseal things, Robert, just because you finally add some, transparency to this case, that's not in the benefit of Bryan Kohberger. No. That's the way it should have damn well been to begin with. Okay, so nothing still at this point in time has benefited or gone in Bryan Kohberger's way other than them actually approving Becca Barlow to be on his defense team. And she already is filing motions that are benefiting Bryan Kohberger in regards to the DNA evidence and the DNA experts. She's already showcasing the mind games and the things that they were doing to this grand jury. And I think she's going to be critical in the upcoming trial. She's going to be critical. So that's a great win for the defense. Could you only imagine? I mean, where would we be sitting today? How would we be feeling if he had denied the defense's motion to get Becca Barlow onto that defense team?
Oh, God. It would be a fucking, I didn't mean cuss. It would be a bloodbath for the defense if he would have denied Becca Barlow.
Well, I mean, and that's what the scariest thing is Becca Barlow is an amazing expert that comes into play with the DNA. And I don't think the defense could battle the DNA in this case without her. And, at the end of the day, okay, she still would have been a part of the defense team. Okay? She still was working as an expert for the defense, which is great. That's great. But for her to be able to step up to the plate, imagine this woman unleashed Bicca Barlow, during cross-examination of the state's experts that don't know how to explain what their procedures and what their actual job entails.
Yeah, and and if you look at it, brother, yeah, just like Rylan Nolan, when she testified on the in the hearing for the 23rd, um, dude, I was laughing because she made freaking Brett Payne look like an idiot. When he was asked why they didn't upload Unknown Male B and D, and because he said that they didn't want to destroy the DNA on the knife sheaths. Well, and then you had uh, Riley Nowlin saying you could have uploaded more than one DNA or more than one IgG, and the sheath would have been fine. Now is she going to? Yeah, because she's the manager for the ISP forensics lab there in Meridian, Idaho. Dude, I laughed when she made freaking Brett Payne look like an idiot.
Yeah, I'm starting to really like how this defense team is actually lining up. You're going to have Ann Taylor, who is the pick-apart attorney. I call her the pick-apart. She's going to go in and she's going to find ways to attack each one of these prosecutorial witnesses to make them stumble up and make fools of themselves. She's going to be the one that makes them actually tell on their own lies. And I love that. Then you're going to transition over into Massoff. I think Massoff is just amazing at building the narrative and the story and showcasing it in a way that actually makes sense. So when she goes in to explain things in front of this jury, step by step by step of how this is going to, play out, and I definitely would have Massoff doing my opening statement, my closing statement, and every other major statement to that jury I could possibly have her make, because she's going to be likable. She's going to be understandable, but she's also going to be strong enough that she's not going to be breakable in her argument if the judge or the prosecution jumps up with an objection. She's going to be solid enough to hold her own ground. And then, I mean, who better can you have to go at the so-called experts that are going to lock this case down for the prosecution, which would be DNA? This is all going to come down to DNA. And if the DNA makes sense to the jury, they're going to convict Bryan Kohberger, because, as you guys all know, when you find DNA at a crime scene, that's pretty damning. But Bicca Barlow, unleash this woman onto the experts that think they know more than her, that understand DNA more than she does, or can explain it in a better way than she can. And Bicca Barlow is going to eat their lunch. In this case, it's going to come down to the strength of the lawyers and the way that they get that vision of this jury. And I just don't see a better lineup than what Bryan Kohberger has right now in the lineup of getting in front of this judge. I mean, in front of this jury, excuse me. The judge, who knows? I don't even know if the judge will be awake for most of it. I mean, the way he just kind of shifts it off like he doesn't care. It's going to be interesting to see. And Annie Ruler is here in Vegas. I hope you're enjoying the rain, Annie. Let me tell you, I'm inside. And my dogs don't even want to go outside right now.
I mean, especially when Ann Taylor asked Miss Nowland about the touch DNA on the knife sheath, and about their testing procedure, and Miss Nowland said that to her recollection that they tested the top of the button snap, and then and asked her about about underneath and everything inside the workings of the button snap, and this is the answer that I hated hearing from Payne, and I'm starting to hate from her. Well, I don't recall if we did that. I'll have to go back and look at her notes. So how do you not recall swabbing the top of the button snap and inside of the button snap? Yeah, you should you should recall doing that. I understand that she wasn't the one doing it, but she would have had to oversee it. So this whole I do not recall, I do not remember. I mean, it's getting tiring.
I don't think that she stands a chance against Spica Barlow. But I mean, here's an even better question to go along with our theme of the night with Dylan Mortensen, because we know Dylan's going to have to step up to the plate and take the stand. And the reason why we know that is the prosecution has boxed her up into a little cage she can't get out of, and now the defense is going to be able to get their hands on her. Do you let Massoff do the cross examination, or are you going to let Ann Taylor just unleash the bulldog and just come on out?
I think I would let the pick apart attorney do it, because Ann Taylor will pick her apart and she will shred her on that stand.
I mean, my concern, and I agree with you, I think Ann Taylor is professional enough that she'll be able to do it in a manner that doesn't get the emotions just revving. But this is going to be it's going to be a disaster all the way around having Dylan Mortensen get up on that stand, because the prosecution is going to do everything they can to showcase her as an actual victim. So they're going to open the eyes first of the jury and try to make them emotionally gravitate to Dylan, which, I'm just not sure if that's going to work. And I'm not trying to say there's anything wrong with Dylan in the manner. I just think that maybe she's not going to come across as likable as what many think she is. But if the prosecution can get it out there, Robert, that she's a victim of this, that she's a survivor and she went through the holy hell and survived it, then the jury's going to have some compassion. And that's where Ann Taylor's going to have to do this very tactfully and doing it in a manner that allows Dylan to shred Dylan. You know what I mean? You don't want to do it yourself as an attorney. You want Dylan to do it herself.
Yeah, and especially with I mean, I hate to say it, the Barbie dollhouse that they're going to be using as a visual for the actual house. Dude, I don't see it.
And I know a lot of people are talking about this, like you call it, the dollhouse, as if this is going to play a significant role in the jury's minds of this case. I don't see it as being that important to the jury in finding guilt to Brian Koberger. Like I think it could actually be just a forgettable moment by many of them, because they're going to look at the layout of this house, and really what that's going to bring to their mind is, how did Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk survive this? Like I could potentially see, if I was on that jury and you're going through this whole explanation of the devastation that this crime was, and then you show me this little house thing, and I'm supposed to make this out and try to figure out how all this happened. And I realized Dylan Mortensen sitting right in the middle of the entire crime scene for the entirety of this crime happening. I that doesn't do the prosecution any good, in my opinion. I don't think it will.
No, and in my opinion, you're going to have the jurors looking at Dylan, thinking, "Okay, you were in the middle of this quadruple murder. But how did you make it out alive? And why didn't you call 911? And instead of calling 911, you called the downstairs roommate and asked to come sleep down there." The jurors themselves are going to look at Dylan as an incredible witness, because she was in the middle of this gruesome night and didn't do nothing.
Well, I mean, even more so, think about it. You're sitting on the jury, and they're presenting to you this just devastatingly ugly crime scene. I mean, think about it, from the entirety of the time of this, they've talked about how ugly this crime scene was. And then you have to ask yourself as a juror, immediately after the said perpetrator walks out the back door, that they're claiming the person she saw is Brian Koberger. They're not making a statement that she potentially saw somebody else. They're making the statement, the prosecution is, that she saw Bryan Kohberger leaving this scene and he had just committed this crime. So now you have to ask yourself, immediately after, she dials a phone to Bethany downstairs and says, hey, I want to come downstairs and stay in your room. To me, sitting on that jury, one of the first thoughts I'm going to have is, one, you watched the guy walk out the door and did nothing. Two, you came out of your own room and walked through the center of the home, the center of the crime scene, to go down the stairs to the other individual's room. How did you not recognize this gruesome crime scene when you did that? And if you come back to me on that stand and you say, well, I was drunk, I was incoherent, I didn't know if I was awake or if I was sleeping, all I saw was bushy eyebrows, scary eyes, I'm going to say you're not creditable and you shouldn't be up there identifying a perp walking through the center of the crime scene to leave it. You should not be a witness in this case. You should never have been used to get an arrest warrant. Why are people still, finding Bryan Kohberger so guilty, but they're not even realizing at this point, your main witness of this that was utilized in that arrest warrant, that I get it, this judge just overlooked and waved on like it didn't matter. She's not creditable. And it was used in the arrest warrant. That means the arrest warrant is not creditable. But he wouldn't throw it out. He just would not go that route.
Hey, I want to say thank you to Mikey S. He just gifted Amethyst Noir a membership to my channel.
Awesome. Always love to see that. Welcome to Robert's channel. I will say that, when he decides to get some work done, he gets it done. He does well with it. Sometimes we have to urge him to do it.
Now,
when he gets on it,
I was gonna say, here the other day, Mikey got gifted a membership to my channel. Nice.
Well, I'm always happy to see people joining you, Robert, over there and becoming a member of your channel. I think that as we work through the process, I know you're going to start doing bigger and better things for your members, and that's going to be exciting to see. So welcome to the True Crime Unraveled team and membership. And I hope you love it and enjoy it. So thank you, Mike S. as well. Mike S. is a big supporter. I've had some interesting conversations with this gentleman. I know he also is a big supporter of our other good friend out there, Miss Swamp Rose, Kiki. So thank you for being in here, Mikey. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mikey. Now, there was a question earlier on my side. I think it was from Lori Markle. She asked, do we know yet if Bethany will testify?
I mean, I want to say, and I'm sure you agree, Robert, she was in the house when the crime was committed, so they're going to have to call her to the stand to at least give some feedback. But now, knowing Miss Bushy Eyebrowed, cartoon eyes, creator, drawer on the walls and pinning stuff all over her room girl, whether she be in crime land, fantasy land, wherever she might be, they're going to call her to the stand. So if Dylan's got to take the stand, I would think Bethany's going to have to testify to what she knows was going on with Dylan at the least.
Yeah. Yeah, I could just see freaking Bethany walking in Dylan's room going, hey, you had a bunch of eyes on your wall.
Well, I mean, you just got to kind of wonder. You're sitting there, you're doing an interview with law enforcement. You say, you know what, officer, the only thing legitimately that I truly remember was the eyebrows. I just have this feel of eyebrows. I don't know if the guy was white. I don't know if he was brown. I think he was white. I don't know why I think he was white. But I remember seeing eyebrows, and then you're the law enforcement officer that needs to go into take, a visual of a room, and the entire room is just staring at you, and the eyes are blinking with the eyebrows just flowing in the wind.
Yeah. Hey, and don't forget Maury asking what color was his eyebrows. I mean, what type of officer would interview somebody at the crime scene? I think you would take her like downtown, maybe interview her there instead of interviewing her at the crime scene, and then uh, another officer going, "What color was his eyebrows?"
I agree with Mike. Yes, what they did is they found a key person that they could point at and say, "This is our eyewitness of the
Yeah.
case right here. She was on the second floor. We're going to turn this into the major eyewitness." By no means did anybody in Idaho or anybody investigating this case think that this case was going to blow up the way it did. They never thought this was going to get the visual spectatorship that it did, and all us amazing YouTube creators get on here and discuss it with the integrity that we do.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Mike.
I had to laugh. Maybe that should
Yeah.
make me go drink now.
Mikey said, "Not off the hook at all. Misconduct, and that's a Franks worthy. They lied and misrepresented."
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been doing some research on this, Robert, because I wanted to know, is the Frank situation dead in the water and over with now that Judge Hippler ruled on that? Is there any further that this could actually go? And it actually has a wide open door within the Supreme Court, both in Idaho and the federal jurisdiction, that investigations could very easily be launched into the manner that this investigation took place, as well as the statements made and how they were rendered and how they were taken and what they were utilized for.
Yeah.
So, I had somebody I was talking to that's a prosecuting attorney, and he's completely at just a wit's end, saying that this has completely been wrongfully prosecuted and wrongfully investigated. And it's like, well, I can't believe I got a prosecutor to admit that. That's
Yeah.
crazy. But he looks at it and he says, even if this makes it past where it's at right now, and all these people are feeling so good about this guiltiness put onto this young man's life, you just have to realize that could be overturned in a heartbeat. He can be let loose, exonerated, and put back out there with just no crime being led to him. But I mean, at the end of the day, why is all the questioning within this case of credibility going into what's happening within law enforcement and its witnesses, compared to why are we not wondering about credibility of the defendant? Like, I haven't heard anybody question the credibility of Brian Koberger as if he's been a liar for most of his life, or he's been dishonest in many of ways. I mean, I know he took a cell phone at the age of 14, but I mean, good Lord, that could have been that could have been out of hand, and we just don't know the truth of it.
Yeah. Actually, what 14-year-old doesn't take his sister's cell phone? That's something we got to think about. I mean, of course, when I was 14, cell phones weren't even invented yet. But what 14-year-old just doesn't take his sister's cell phone, kind of out of spite? You have a lot of siblings out there, nowadays that will take each other's cell phones. But I mean, is that worthy enough to be deemed a murderer and a serial killer? No. And that's what I don't understand. And everyone's looking at his past when he was 14, and then labeling him now as a serial killer and a murderer and a heinous person when they don't even know him.
Yeah, and that's legitimately, if we've watched this playing out, where's the dishonesty been led we've all watched it from the moment law enforcement took the case and stepped up to the podiums. Nothing has come out creditable or honest or transparent. And I know everybody that wants to point the finger at Brian Koberger being the one that committed this crime. They're pointing the finger at the defense, that they're playing games, they're manipulating the emotions, they're saying things that aren't true, trying to make a point. No, they're fighting for their client, and they're trying to prove dishonesty within the investigation. And it's proven right off the bat, Robert. The dishonesty is blatant and shining when the FBI breaks its own procedures and its own rules of its FBI nature to go search databases they're not allowed to be in.
Yeah.
It's lying.
Yeah.
That's dishonest.
Yeah. I believe it was, Ann Taylor mentioned it was MyHeritage or something like that. And MyHeritage has a distinct terms of service. Law enforcement is not allowed to upload IGG information because it's a paid private site.
Correct. We know that two of the utilized databanks of this, which I don't know a lot about this stuff, ladies and gentlemen. I was adopted in my life, and I had people throughout my life that said that I could do this ancestry stuff to where I put my DNA into a database and I'd be able to connect me, but I never had any interest in doing it. I didn't research it. I didn't follow it. I didn't care. But now I'm watching from afar as they're utilizing this to solve crimes, and it makes me a little more interested in it because I want to know exactly what our jurisdictionary, judicial system is doing to try to solve crimes, and are they doing it honestly and with integrity? And this very case, people have been screaming it for a long time that it was not done appropriately. This was not a good investigation. And now we're finding out step by step just how dishonest it was. And I do want to reiterate, Luftina made a great point here. If you do want to ask either Robert or I a question, please just make sure you kind of make it to where we can see it, because I'm blind. Robert, he does his best to keep up with it. And then our mods try to do their best to let us know that there's questions. So if there's something we could answer for you or comment on, please just let us know. We're going to do our very best to do so. But Robert, what have you seen so far? If you were to separate kind of the state's case from the defense's case, which one seems more honest and transparent within the way that they're conducting their investigations and disputes within the courtroom compared to each other? Do you think that the prosecution and law enforcement has stood a good ground of honesty and integrity, or do you think the defense is doing a better job?
I think the defense is doing a better job. And because like I was telling you, like what a couple of days ago, I was on page 76 of that 175 page transcript, and there's stuff in it that makes me question law enforcement. Especially makes me I've questioned Brett Payne for like the last 2.5 years, and when they were stating that in the first 24 hours of this case, they made him lead investigator. Now, has he ever actually been a part of a homicide there in Moscow, Idaho? From what I believe, or in my own opinion, I don't even think he knew what was going on in this case. He was just basically thrust into it as lead investigator and was told, go ahead and solve this case. And they are, the police and the prosecution are way in over their heads with this case. And even Steve G stated that law enforcement, especially Moscow PD, was way in over their heads because I think what Steve G said, the last crime like this was like a decade ago. And of course, Brett Payne wasn't with them at the time. He's only been with them for 7 years. Why make somebody who's never been through a murder investigation the lead investigator? And then he claims that how he gets his work done is by having people smarter than him help him. And even that PCA, it was three different people writing the same thing, or writing their own interpretation. It was Blaker, Mowry, and Payne, all three writing their own interpretations of a probable cause affidavit, and then combining it together and basically making it like look like Blaker's. That made me kind of scratch my head and want to go outside and scream at the top of my lungs, "What the hell's going on here?"
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, and I want people to best understand, because I do get attacked on a daily basis, that I'm a law enforcement hater. I'm a judicial system hater. I'm a justice hater. I'm this. No, I'm not. Look, I have many of people in my life that have been honest and worked their law enforcement careers with integrity and done a great job of solving crimes, treating individuals that have had hardships like myself in their past very respectfully. They've handled cases well. I've seen prosecuting attorneys be very fair and very honest in the way that they worked through a case, even helping to get a individual that was on a downwards path as a defendant some help and get them going in the right direction, possibly still have a future. I've seen the cases. I never got the opportunity of them where they gave them a chance. Like, if you complete probation, we'll drop your felony to a misdemeanor. We'll wipe it from your record. We'll still give you a chance to be able to clear a background check in the future. So, I mean, we definitely have some very good people involved within law enforcement. The problem is if you put one individual that's willing to cut corners, or one individual that's willing to speak untruths to try to find a way to solve a crime, and you integrate that one individual into a good group of individuals, it typically showcases bad upon the group of individuals, because that one person will always get caught. So, I mean, it's sad to see. Let me know if I saw my comment, and let me know your thoughts, please. And thank you. It's Dirty Clean. Let me see if I can see. They're asking me to look at their comment up here.
Let's see.
Do you see something up there?
Okay, Dirty Clean. They make some that legit look exactly like a dial buster,
dust buster.
A dust buster. It's nuts. It's nuts. Search for 4 minute, and you are what I mean, or
you will see what I mean.
Yeah.
Look, ladies and gentlemen, I read everything about a handheld vacuum cleaner. I really did. I didn't run with any of that stuff. I didn't run that she truly thought she saw somebody with a vacuum cleaner in their hand. I think that, no, and that's fine, Dirty Clean. We know typing is not easy, especially when you're doing it on a cell phone. You're trying to move while you do it. I just feel as though Dylan Mortensen was trying to make kind of like a picture of what she was seeing, so that law enforcement can kind of get an idea of what was going on. But you see, here's where the issue with these types of things are. One, law enforcement is going to actually utilize it as if she legitimately saw a vacuum cleaner. So now that vacuum cleaner idea morphs into a kill kit. And that's how now explanations of how you don't actually find DNA and various things like Brian Koberger's hair or all that is he had plenty of time to go in with a shop vac or a handheld and just clean the entire crime scene, plus his car, plus his shoes on the way out, plus the dirt on the ramp way up, plus the gravel before he gets into the car. But don't forget, he's also got to do his whole house and all the places he walks to get to the house. And I'm sure because he went to Albertsons the very next day, he had to take that very same vacuum cleaner into Albertsons and clean up every aisle that he walked down, because he was so afraid of passing along his DNA. I mean, come on, Robert. Does that make sense to you?
No. Delby Rush has a question for us. Do you guys think this case is unraveling according to plan, and the purpose has always been to protect the perpetrators?
I'll let you answer that first, Robert, if you want to jump in on that.
Okay. Well, personally, I believe they've always been protecting some perpetrators, because we don't know if the blood on the handrail was from when Dylan, stumbling through the house drunk, going down to Bethany's room. They say it's unknown male DNA. Could she have saw one killer go out the sliding glass door, and then another killer went out, and her not see the other killer go out and down the stairs and out the front door? Because we've all heard this was an iconic home, and everyone in the neighborhood had the code for the front door. So yeah, if that's the case, and they have the code if everyone in that neighborhood has the code for the front door, wouldn't that open the investigation up to even more people? Yeah, since they all had the codes to that front door, and we all know that I'm not saying the frats did it, but we all know that like Sigma Chi had the code to the front door because they were always throwing parties in there. So, and everyone in this case was cleared too damn quickly. Even the G stated in the beginning, everyone was cleared too quickly. The alibis were never checked properly. They just went ahead and cleared them quickly. And as far as the case collapsing, collapsing is from all the sealing and the lying and the redacting. And now we have a judge who's basically trying to give some type of transparency in this case, but it may be too late.
And I want to say welcome to Heather Fitzgerald, Lisa Shelton, and some of the others that have just recently jumped in. Sorry, we weren't able to say it quicker than we are now, but we're definitely appreciative of all of you being here. And you make some very valid points, Robert. And I think, I'll express how I feel, and some are either going to gravitate to it and think that it's not a bad way to explain it, or others are going to kick some dirt on me and say, man, you're just a freak of whatever. I don't think the case is actually unraveling. I don't think the case was ever as solid as anybody made it out to be. I believe that, this is the way that our justice system unfortunately works on a lot of various levels. I think that many times prosecutors bring charges against defendants based upon investigators and various people's drive to get those charges filed as quickly as possible. And they don't have all their eggs in a row, and they don't have, everything figured out moving forward from that arrest affidavit to the point of when they've actually charged them, arrested them, and then into a deeper investigation of what they feel as though is their evidence. There's a lot of playing parts to within this case. I don't actually believe that the overall intention is to protect perpetrators. I believe that the actual investigation was done so poorly that the poorness of the investigation protects the perpetrator in its own self. So I don't think there was any help needed within that. I don't think that was the purpose. I just think that's the way it worked out. And it's because you literally have just a group of individuals that either are not trained well enough, they're not educated well enough to kind of see the writing on the wall of how a case like this feeds into many different directions. But then you've also got, on the other hand, a group of individuals that are not directly leading the investigation, and let's just say it's probably within the FBI ranks, but they're utilizing this chest out, I'm the Billy Badass of this investigation. You're going to listen to everything we say, everything that we claim, and we don't even need to show you how we got to that point, then you're going to run with that. You're going to get the courtroom and you're going to get this person found guilty. Well, now, because there's so many eyes on this case and the transparency is being forced, because Robert, this transparency wasn't just being given on its own free will. This transparency is being forced to come to light.
Yeah.
And now, as it's coming to light, we're seeing just how bad this investigation was. And I believe that Ann Taylor directly said it to the judge in the courtroom. There was no investigation conducted outside of delivering the IgG to an illegal database that broke, the FBI's protocols. They called in a tip. They utilized that tip. They made arrests. And now it's it's a misinformation. It's a bad narrative drive. And it's at a point right now that we have to go to trial. There's no way this isn't going to trial at this point. I know for a long time people were screaming a dismissal and, there was going to be some light at the end of the day that this case didn't have to see, the courtroom for trial. But most of us knew this was going to trial and it was going to be a war. Now it's just up to Judge Hippler to ensure that before this gets in front of a jury, that there's some stipulations into this, that the mind games and the drive for the narrative can be ironed out to the point that the true transparent evidence is showcased and everything else can just be left outside the door. But sadly, I don't think that's, I've watched every motion, Robert, just get denied. So when we get into these motions for limine, and there's some very valid arguments made by the defense, it's going to be very interesting to see what gets through and what gets denied. And that'll showcase, how unraveling of a case this is.
Yeah, because if this judge denies all the limine motions, then we know that this case, this case is in trouble. This case is not only going forward to trial, and I mean, I agree with what you were saying. That this judge just wants this case out of this courtroom, and that's why he's trying to fast track it to trial to get Brian in front of a jury of his peers, because he wants this case out of his courtroom. But if he denies all these motions of limine by the defense, then that basically secures him as a pro prosecution and pro law enforcement judge. And he's saying, I don't give a damn about the defense.
Yeah, I mean, man, Robert, I mean, sometimes I just got to take a deep breath and just be thankful that it's not me within the courtroom, because I've been there. I've been through this. And, even in the cases that I didn't take to trial, because I knew better, just by the way, either A, I knew how guilty I truly was coming across, but also, I could tell with the flow within the courtroom of where I was in trouble. And, for Ann Taylor to be able to sit down with the likes of a Brian Koberger and keep him on the same page and keep him feeling as though that they've got a chance within this is, that's a very, very good thing. I mean, it shows that Ann Taylor has integrity and Brian Koberger believes in what she has to say and what she could accomplish. Otherwise, I think this would be a painful thing to watch within the courtroom.
And I'm and we talk about the IgG, and I've been looking into this case in Colorado. I think I told you about it before, brother. Yvonne Woods. She was the Colorado Bureau of Investigations chief forensic scientist, and she's looking at almost 102 felonies, because instead of sticking with the standard protocol and going like by the book, like most forensic scientists are supposed to, she was deviating from the standard protocol and cutting corners, and now they're having to spend $7.5 million to go back and test over 3,000 cases that she had her hands on, to see if any one of those 3,000 cases, if the person that was convicted wasn't wrongfully convicted. And it makes me think, could something like what's happening in Colorado happen in the Idaho forensics lab? I mean, we don't know. And like I was telling you earlier, only in Idaho. But could something like what's happening in Colorado with Yvonne Woods be happening in Idaho? I don't know.
No, I don't think so. I think you got to look. You're going to have to really put your binoculars on to Othram. You're going to want to see, because they're the ones that right now are being attacked on the stand. And then you're going to have to keep your eyes on where is this going to lead, because this could be very interesting. And I do know of, the person you're talking about there in Colorado, and she's opened a can of worms. It's going to be very difficult in Colorado in regards to a lot of these cases that utilize, DNA. But, you're going to have to look at the FBI, and then you're going to have to separate out how are we going to get everything within to an honest and transparent manner, to where investigations can be conducted in a manner that we trust that they're doing it by a procedure and by chain of custody and by everything correctly, not in the dark, utilizing the IGG. Otherwise, we're going to have to find that IGG is just not the proper channel to be used, because if you can't do it honestly, you shouldn't be doing it. So this is going to put negativity onto Othram, but then they're going to battle that by saying, but wait, no, we were doing what we were supposed to do, and the FBI stepped in and took everything away from us to do what they're going to do. Well, you damn well shouldn't let the FBI step in and do what they did. You should have said, no, we've been contracted to do this, and we're going to fulfill our contractual agreement to the fullest of duties, and then we'll turn over our results back to Idaho. And at that point, Idaho can make the decision from there of what they want to do moving forward. But we have to fulfill what we are required to fulfill. And I think that's something that, this is going to be law changing. This is going to be huge.
Yep.
And it's going to take a long time to sort this out. The unfortunate thing about it is, if a jury is willing to convict Bryan Kohberger in the meantime and say all of this is done in an okay manner, while all of that's being fought out, and a man that shouldn't be sitting behind bars could potentially be sitting behind bars while this fight happens. So, Robert, we do have a question here from Rock Chick. Do you think that the defense will win the argument about the Brady violations with Nye actively lying to the court that the state didn't have the Othram protocols, etc., the AT's been asking for? Robert, if you want to jump in on that real quick and give your 2 cents, I'd appreciate it while I try to untangle myself before I fall on my head.
That's a very interesting question, Rock Chick. Could they go after them for Brady violations? More than likely, yeah. Because if Nye is actively lying to the court, then I don't understand why the judge doesn't call his bluff or find him in contempt for lying to the court. This just goes back to what we've been saying, that this judge is very pro-prosecution and very pro-law enforcement. So, would the judge overlook the lie from Nye? Possibly. Could the judge deny the Brady violations from the defense? more than likely, possibly, because he is pro prosecution and pro law enforcement, and it's just this is a weird case, yeah, especially now that Hitler's got it, and yeah, I'm wondering, may possibly the prosecution is a little bit mad because they're now being forced to be transparent, and I mean, I hope that the judge does come down on Nye for lying, but I don't see it happening because he's pro prosecution. I hope that answers your question on my part, and my brother's next.
Yeah, I mean, I think you made some very valid points. I mean, just from my experiences, and I can't speak that as if I know what's going to potentially happen in Brady violations. I just know from experience that they're hard. They're hard. It's hard to win that argument. I mean, you've literally got to prove up and beyond to a judge, especially one like Hitler, that it's just so egregious and just so bad that he's willing to halt a case like this, to punish someone like Nye, when at the end of the day, I'm not even sure if this is the judge that would be willing to put sanctions onto the prosecution for not getting the discoverable evidence over in time. So
yeah,
these judges are just kind of set in their way. They get these cases in front of them, they hear the arguments, and then they do their very best to push them into a trial setting or into, hey, we're going to go ahead and get this plea bargain done. And at this point, I'm just pretty sure that Hitler he's pretty gung-ho to just get this into the trial, get it in front of that jury. Hell, I wouldn't even be surprised if he tries to narrow the time frame that judge set aside for the time frame of this, this trial, and he tries to shave a month off of that or something crazy. But just real quick, I want to say thank you to Brooke. She wishing me a happy birthday, saying I'm looking like I feel much better. So I do appreciate that. I do feel better, ladies and gentlemen. I'm more positive natured on a daily basis, even though the battle, is still going on behind the scenes. I can't complain. I can't really smash anything or break anything. I think that it's, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm here with all of you, and I'm able to talk true crime with Robert and Swamp and the others. And we're hanging in. We're moving forward. As Robert, I'm sure you could tell him, I'm in a lot of treatments a lot during the day, and I'm trying to recover as much as I can through the day. But
yep,
very appreciative.
Like like this morning when I text you, and at first I was getting worried because you weren't texting back, and then you text back, just got home from treatment, and I'm always praying for you when it comes to your treatments too. And when you said you were gonna go take a nap, I messaged you back. I'm like, okay, have a good nap, love you, bro. And then didn't hear from you. And now I'm thinking, okay, well, I'll text him in about 3 or 4 hours, and maybe he's up from his nap. You didn't wake up from your nap until like 8:50. Yeah, because I'm like, well, wait a minute, he should be up from his nap by now. And then I finally got a text back. Sorry, just woke up, and I looked at my phone, and it said 8:50 p.m. I'm like, wow.
I want to take a brief moment here. Sky Blue, I just kind of want to, I'm going to answer some of this, and then I'm going to let some of it not be answered by me. The multiple series drug and parole violations, I know people are saying they've been dropped. They weren't dropped. They were worked through into a drug rehabilitation program. I know all about it. I know all about these drug and parole violations. I know all about the charges against the people involved or the parents. I know all about that because I've actually stood by one of those while they worked their way through the penitentiary and through the treatment programs. And I know where they sit today, still working through those treatment programs in regards to these the charges. And as for Tyson Farley, I know exactly where he's sitting today. He's sitting in the penitentiary right now. He's in the drug uh, rehabilitation program as well, and he will be released not long from now into more drug rehab programs. And I know there are people that feel as though he plays a part within all of this. I know people feel as though family members play a part within this. I don't get into those conversations. It's not my theory. It's not my thought process. So I don't discredit people for having those. I'm not going to call anybody anything negative in regards to those. I'll clearly make a statement. I personally do not have those same sentiments. I don't feel that way. Um, I know it's a good story, and I know many are following it, and that's great. But Robert, I don't know about you, but that's just not on my radar. So
No, it's not on mine either. Um, what's on my radar? Tomorrow I'm getting more ink so I can print off more documents. What's on my radar is just basically justice for these four victims, and I mean, and if it comes to it, justice for Brian. That's what's on my radar. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and that's all I'm focused on is focused on justice for the victims and potentially Brian, because looking at this case back then when it first started, we all were walking into this case blind, because of all the sealing and the redacting and everything else. Now, 2.5 years later, uh, that blindness is starting to dissipate, and we're starting to see the truth in this case. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm a truth seeker, and what's going on in this case is really, really eye opening now. But compared to 2 years ago.
and that's why I mean I make a pretty clear stance in the fact I'm not here to discredit people's thoughts or their directions that they feel theory wise when it comes to this case because I'm not fully knowledgeable of all of the evidence of this case. I don't know what led up to this case. I became a part of the case discussion from the day this case broke, and I've been very involved in it from that very first day. And I've stayed a pretty steady course in the way that I've presented myself when it comes to this case. And I don't discredit or disrespect anybody when it
No,
comes to it, but I'm also not going to be one that to garner more visual or more success within people listening to me. Hey, Mikey, I truly appreciate that. Thank you very much. Um, you know, I I'm not going to jump aboard a theory that I don't agree with just to try to make it make sense, especially when I've been in direct um, and you know this, Robert. Many in here do. I've been in direct contact with some of the players of those theories that people try to put a lot of weight onto, and I know exactly where they're trying to go in life and what they're trying to accomplish in it. This would be very weight bearing if it was true, and they're trying to get back on life's path and get over the situations that they're working through. So, um, we're going to take a few more questions and a few more comments. I want to wrap it down a little bit. The wife's going to be getting home here on my side of things, Robert, and I I want to try to surprise her with a little bit of a dinner for, all the appreciation. I want to say thank you to everybody in the chat, and Robert, you and your family as well. I think it's very important that I take a moment to do that because, it's been, I've been on this platform now for a little over a year, and it's been an amazing roller coaster. It's been a
Yeah.
wild, exciting roller coaster. And I could never imagine the amount of support and love that I would have garnered um, through the community that they've been able to show to me, but even more so the love and the respect that they've given to my wife and my friends like Robert and Kiki and those I really care about.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's just really important that I take a moment and I just express to all of you. I mean, I'm appreciative that you joined me for my birthday. I'm appreciative of all the kind things being said. I'm appreciative, Leslie and Billy. Thank you, for the super chat there, and the people that are willing to become members, and the people that have joined Robert's membership, and the people that have jumped on over there with Kiki. I couldn't say thank you enough, and the people that follow and Unfiltered Lucky just jumped in. I knew you were going to show up in here at some point in time.
Hey, Lucky.
I knew you were going to have to blow me up on my birthday, and I was going to ignore you behind the scenes, but thank you for jumping in real quick and showing some love. And everybody, if you haven't had the opportunity, please jump over to Unfiltered Lucky too. He does amazing work. If you haven't been over there, please give him some love. This is just, it's even through the hardest of times, Robert, when we got to work through the health issues and the different drama issues and the different things out there. I just can't say thank you enough to everybody, and it truly means the world to me. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Robert, if you want to say a few words before we sign off and head out on our way, why don't you go and take a moment to do that, and then I'll end our show tonight and send us out.
I want to say thank you to not only Mikey S for gifting 2 memberships on my channel. I want to say thank you to everyone who's been chatting. Aurora Rain, Love Tina, Leslie and Billy, who I guess until now didn't realize they were mods on my channel. Melissa, yeah. And yeah, I do have some good news for you, brother. I went in yesterday for my checkup, and my A1C is at 6.
Well, you're blowing me away because they just did mine the other day, and I was at 51. So you got me beat, bro.
Yeah, and they switched me to the insulin pills.
Nice. That's good news. That's good news. Stay off of that that insulin for sure. And Dirty Clean, I have to agree with you. Yeah, Robert and I are very blessed not only to know each other, but look, every time we look within the chat and we see someone like an Unfiltered Lucky or many of these other creators that pop in here, we can't name them all, but we just have a fabulous group of individuals that come in here showing us love, but also spreading their knowledge and their opinions and their thoughts. And it makes such a huge difference within the community. And everybody, please keep in mind, Pete with Murder Metal Mayhem has made his way back to the platform. He did a video the other day. If you hadn't had a chance to jump over there, watch that video, give it a thumbs up, give it a like. He's working hard. He's working his way back. And I hope to have him here soon on the show to where we can get him rattling along and saying some good things as well. So Natural Healing, it's great to see you. I saw you.
Natural.
I think it was earlier you were with Tommy or with Rory. Man, it gets confusing, but I it's good to see you as well. Guys, I appreciate it. I love all of you. We had a great crowd tonight. Yep. I know that we kind of went back and forth in our conversation. I know we'll dive back in again and do it again. I don't know if we'll be back tomorrow night or not. I know my wife actually has to work on her birthday.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, but we're gonna we leave on Friday, Robert. I'm not going to say where we're going because it's going to be a special surprise, and we're going to do some funny live work both on my channel and also on Pity's Go Stripping. We're going to have some fun stuff going on live, and it won't be in the state of Nevada. So we are leaving the state. For those that don't know, tomorrow is my wife's birthday, so I wish her a happy 108th birthday. And then our wedding anniversary is on the 7th, and so it's been a good long haul with a beautiful lady that I most likely don't deserve. I don't know if all of you guys were able to see her the other night, join Lucky and I on the live, but she truly cares about the community as well. And as she gets old and loses her memory, she'll probably forget to be able to say as many thank yous as she. I'm gonna get in so much trouble. Oh, Robert, like I'm so cut off. Like I'm just not even gonna be able to. I'm not gonna be able to walk straight for like 2 weeks. But But
I got a funny story for you, brother. Your niece, Caitlin. We were in the car yesterday, and my wife forgot to put her seatbelt on. I was driving this time, thank God. I wasn't holding the old crap handle. And I told her she needs to put her seatbelt on, and Caitlin says from the back seat, "Yeah, mommy, we don't want to get pulled over by the popo."
She's already learning. We got to get it right. So, but I want to say thank you to everybody. So you probably you may see me tomorrow night. Come on with Robert, and if Kiki wants to join us, it's possible. Or somebody else may jump up with us for a little while tomorrow. But Friday, the anniversary day, it's gonna be a travel day, so you're not going to see me on Friday. But look for some good fun stuff to happen. And Heather, I definitely appreciate it. Thank you so much. Much love to you. And for those that really enjoy good content and good information, please visit our fellow creator Heather Fitzgerald as well. I know there's so many creators that come in here, guys. I can't name them all, but they're amazing. And
Heather said, "Robert, tell her I said don't answer questions."
That's right. We just got to make sure we keep everything to ourselves. Don't answer doors. Don't answer any questions. Make sure you lawyer up. I think we're seeing enough of that visually between all the cases across the country at the time. It's the best advice I can give all of you. But thank you, Unfiltered Lucky, for stopping by. Truly appreciate it. And thank you to everybody else. Robert, it was a great show. I appreciate you joining in. Make sure tonight, all of you, just when you lay your head down on your pillow, just imagine all the bushy eyebrows and all the eyes staring back at you from Dylan Mortenson's bedroom as they're pinned to the wall. Yeah, just make sure that you fully understand that all eyes are on you.
Yeah, that would be very creepy to sleep in her room with all those eyes watching from drawn on corkboard. That would be very creepy.
Well, that's why you call your friend downstairs, go sleep in her room. So everybody have a great night. We thank you very much.
Peace.
We'll see you again soon.